All right, what's up, everyone? Hope everyone's doing well today. What we're going to do is basically talk about how to how to build muscle on a vegan diet. Okay, so this is what we want to do. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get to it. All right, let me also invite my class as well. All right. So while everyone's coming into the class, like I said before, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to build muscle as a vegan. Just a little bit about myself. I've been vegan for over 11 years. I'm about to go on 12 years. Also, I've been I also been doing bodybuilding for over 10 years. Right now, currently, I am on a bulking season because I'm trying to focus on building some muscle mass. I'm trying to put on some more muscle for this season. I decided to take like a whole year off to do this, and then also at the same time, with that said, at the same time, what I'm trying to do is just bulk up. That's it. Really keep it clean. Not put on too much body fat. I mean, body fat is part of bulking, and I think I put my limit on body fat gains is like somewhere between 9 to 12% body fat. My stretch will be about like 15%, but that all depends on how I actually look because I don't want to look like too nasty. But I just want to feel comfortable and just have my body fat at a great place where I know I feel fine, I look fine, and I could just get jacked. Like that is a goal. And some of my weaknesses right now is like my legs and my back. So I'm really trying to focus on that. More hypertrophy in the quads and the hamstrings, and also more thickness and hypertrophy in the back. So that's something I'm trying to do as well. But when it comes to building muscle, one of the things we have to kind of understand is that building muscle on a plant-based diet is a little difficult. Okay, it is a little difficult. It does take some time. You have to be patient. Okay, when it comes to it, but at the same time, it's not a free pass to eat what you want because a lot of people feel that when they do this, is a free pass where they can just have whatever types of foods that they can eat and then they're eating nothing but junk food, right? And you don't want to do this, okay? You definitely want to try to keep it healthy because the whole point of having healthy foods, especially whole point of having healthy foods, especially if you're trying to bulk, is so you can get max amount of nutrients. Okay, so when you're bulking, you can have like a few junk foods here and there, but I always say focus on hypernourishment first. Okay, because I do something called like the hypernourishment protocol where we focus on getting the proper amount of dietary fiber. Because you want all that stuff to be coming out of you. You don't want to just be sitting in your body. Also, as well, you're maximizing all your vitamins and minerals. So you're getting more than your daily value when it comes to these things, because that's going to also help improve your wellness overall. And at the same time, it's going to help with your recovery. And you want to make sure you're getting foods that has a lot of amino acids in it too, so that also plays a role too. So you want to make sure you're getting a lot of foods from mostly a whole foods source. Now, the only thing when it comes to nutrition on a bulk is I would say maybe it's going to be a little hard to get crazy amount of fiber. You know what I'm saying? Because it's easy to get more fiber, but you probably want to keep it under control, just because when you're getting it, like for example, when I'm on a cut, I can get easily on a cut about 50 to 60, even 80 grams of fiber, right, per day. Like seriously, when I'm cutting, because when I'm cutting, I like to have that high amounts of fiber because I can go into very low calorie deficits, but the fiber is going to help me stay satiated, right? And fiber is really good because they're good prebiotics that your gut microbiome, the good bacteria actually consumes to make it into good probiotics. And that also helps with your immune system and overall health. But when it comes to bulking, you probably want to keep it under control, because you have to remember there's a balance. You don't want to be getting so much fiber that it's hard to consume more calories, and that's some of the struggles I would say that most vegans do struggle with on a plant-based diet, especially if they're doing like a lot of whole foods. Because if you're getting too much fiber, that can like make it difficult to get more food in. So this is where you want to have that balance when it comes to certain types of processed foods versus at the same time your whole foods too. So for example, right now I'm currently consuming about 185 grams of protein. All right. And some of the protein sources that I like to go to is mostly seitan from Upton's, um, Wildwood extra firm tofu, the Big Mountain soy free tofu, and and also Daring chicken. Those are like the big four of like high concentrated proteins that I usually get into my diet. And well, actually, there's five, and the Kite Hill Greek style yogurt, which is plant based. So those are my top five like high protein concentrated foods. Okay, because when it comes to those foods, I'm going to get the most amount of protein very easy. And those foods, since they're like mildly processed, I want, because when we use the word processed, people get scared of this word. But people have to understand that when it comes to certain processed foods, it all depends how they're. I would say processed foods is on a gradient scale of low to high. What's something considered ultra processed versus something that's lightly processed or minimally processed, right? So, for example, a cup of coffee is processed. Anything that's changed from its original state would be considered processed. All right. So coffee would be at the lowest end of processing, just because it's all it is. The coffee, you have the coffee bean, you have to grind it. So you already changed this natural state from a bean to I guess you could to grounds, right? And then by putting it in a capsule or putting it in a filter, you're concentrating what? You're taking the water, hitting the grounds so you can concentrate the caffeine so you can get that caffeine fix, right? That's process. So it's the same thing like with tofu, seitan. Like that's why some of the foods that I show on social media, like when I show the tofu, when I show Upton seitan, when I show the Daring chicken, these are very minimally processed foods. Like this is at the lowest spectrum. If you look at the ingredients, it's very few ingredients. It's usually just like water, whole wheat, water, soy, pea, water with soy. They're very minimally processed. You're not going to see a bunch of chemicals. I mean, all the ingredients you can actually read in English. They're just spices and things like that, and they're not even that far apart. Because some of those foods you can literally make at home, and the only reason you're buying it in the package because you're paying for the convenience. And this is something that I usually tell my students. The only thing you're doing is paying for the convenience. That some of those foods are already pre-cooked. So the only thing I have to do is just put it to your stir fry on a frying pan or pop it in the microwave, whatever you want to do to warm them up, and that's it. You don't have to really add any more salt, any more seasoning, things like that. Unless it's tofu, you know what I mean? But a lot of these foods you could make at home, and you're cutting a lot of time out. And but I'm going to. But if y'all been following me for a while, I have been making more recipe and meal prep videos. And one of the videos I did promise y'all is that I'm going to make a homemade seitan. All right, so y'all can see how it's made, because it's literally the same way I make pancakes. But when I make pancakes, no one tells me, "Oh, this is highly processed." I never hear that from pancakes, but pancakes are processed. Like I throw protein powder, which is processed. I throw whole wheat flour, which is processed. The like the sugar and the baking powder, all those powders is all processed food, but you never hear it. But we want to demonize like something that's packaged, prepackaged, which I don't understand, like where this filter comes from. But at the same time, I'm going to show how people make how to make like seitan, because this is like the main ingredient when it comes to mock meats, and show you like how I make this mock meat is literally the same thing you're doing when you buy it in the store. It's just that obviously there's going to be less sodium because if you're making it from home, the reason the ones in the store has a little bit more sodium versus one at home because sodium is considered as a natural preservative. Yeah, so I rather have a little bit higher sodium and learn how to change up my diet so I'm not over consuming too much sodium. And I know I'm kind of going a little bit over the place, but this is still on the protein topic. Um, I can still control my total sodium intake because the average person should be consuming no more about like 2,000 to 2,500 milligrams of sodium per day. So I rather get the store version and just build my foods around that so I can keep my sodium levels at a good level that versus eating too much versus like spending an hour and a half like making seitan, you know? So it's like, there's a give and a take, you know, there's conveniency versus time. And some people just don't have time. So I always say you have to live within the reality of your lifestyle. You know, you have to kind of adapt. And that's what I really focus when it comes to my students. You know, I really focus on that. Now, before I move forward, I know I've been seeing some people are commenting and stuff like that. I just want to make sure there's no questions. I could answer some questions while I'm doing this. It's not really a problem. Um, Let me just see. Let me see. Just a lot of positive comments, which is good. So thank you. Uh, let's see. Yeah, just people mostly disagreeing. All right. So one person asks, why is it harder to build muscle being a vegan? Now, that's a good question, and I guess we could just go ahead and segue into that. So one of the real reasons why it's hard is, like I said before, and what I mentioned was first the fiber. If you're eating super healthy, right, and you know like how to build a meal plan that's high in protein. But one of the reasons it's hard on a nutrition perspective is basically because most vegans don't know how to get a lot of protein in. So that's why I started off with this video stating when it comes to the protein, how I get my protein up is from those concentrated sources. The Kite Hill Greek yogurt, which is vegan, dairy chicken, tofu, seitan, and protein powder. I think I said something else before, but like it's usually around that, right? So that's what I usually do. Then to get the remaining amount of my protein is from whole foods, like black beans, sweet potatoes, rice, fruits like bananas, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, granola, cereal, whatever, kale, spinach, mushrooms, bell peppers, nuts, seeds, peanut butter, all those whole foods from the grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables all have protein, but they're not concentrated. And if you're trying to get a lot of protein, depending on your weight and where you're at, for example, I weight right now currently at 180. I'm eating about 185 grams of protein because I'm trying to build more muscle. So with that said, I can't do it just through whole foods. There's a way there's a way I could, but it's just that I'm going to be eating more carbs and more fat just to hit that protein level, which is going to skyrocket my total calorie intake. And if I'm not burning those calories in those lifts, those calories will turn to fat, because I'm already in a surplus, and now I'm putting myself in a level of surplus where I'm not, just to hit my protein goals, I'm not even burning the remaining calories that's being used. You know what I'm saying? So that's the problem. This is why the concentrated protein foods are good, because you can get the protein amount that you actually need, and then you combine it through a whole foods plant-based diet, and now you can get your vitamins, your minerals, your fiber, and also get the protein that you need. So that's number one. Mostly food combinations. A lot of people don't understand like how to combine the foods to have more balance when it comes to getting to their fitness goals. So that's number one. Number two is going to be there's a lot of misconceptions too when it comes on the nutrition side. Because when on the nutritional side, some vegans believe that, you can't, you only need like 40 to 60 grams of protein per day. And what they're not understanding is that this this saying, not saying that that's incorrect, because a lot of doctors will promote that, but what you have to understand is that there that's not directed to someone who's fit and someone who's trying to build muscle. Like, when someone gives out some type of directive, there's the directive, or that information is based on a particular individual for whatever goals they're trying to achieve. So that statement never came from from a place where it's like, if you're trying to build lean muscle mass and get jacked, men only need 60 to 80 grams of protein. That was never said. What it said is that the average person only needs, for a male, 60 to 80 grams of protein, and for a female, 40 to 60 grams of protein. This is just for sustainability, just to be alive or something like that. Like, if you just want to be healthy, be alive, yeah, you don't need that much because you're not exercising, you're not doing so much. But if you have a particular goal, like building muscle, you need a lot more protein. Okay, because that's how you want to build muscle. Muscle is protein, And the biggest way I can get people to think about this, I'm like, why do you think meat eaters are very big in meat? Because they understand the concept about protein a little bit better than most vegans. And here's the thing, because the meat that they're eating, what do you think that is? It's muscle. That's what they're eating. Like, all that flesh, that's muscle from an animal. That's why, and that's protein. Like, so all the muscle you got, that's protein. That's the flesh. Like, so you do have to eat protein to get more protein in your diet, like, literally. But do you have to get it from flesh? No, you don't. You just have to learn how to get it from a plant-based source. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only difference between vegans and people who consume animals. But when it comes to the science is still the same. Only difference is that with vegans, and what we're doing is we're filtering out that middle man or middle animal. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're cutting that out. We're cutting out that source and going straight to the source. Like, because that's when we say, where is that animal getting the protein from? Well, majority of farm animals are herbivores, right? So they're getting it from, and especially if you're consuming farm animals, right? They're consuming soy and wheat. You know what I'm saying? So the only difference with us is, like, why not get it from soy and wheat as well? But for us as humans, we want to get it mostly from organic, non-GMO source, right? Organic, non-GMO soy, and also organic, non-GMO wheat. And this is what? Seitan. Seitan is made from wheat. And the wheat is made from where the seitan itself, that powder, is not just regular wheat. What you're eating, and the reason it has such a high concentrated protein source, is something called the endosperm. So you're pretty much eating the wheat, like seeds, or the kernel, that's getting blended together. Because, like, if you have the best way I can explain it is like like when you pop popcorn, right? And some of those kernels don't pop. You ever, like, opened up that corn kernel and you see that white stuff inside? That white stuff is called the endosperm. Okay. So, because I know a lot of people, especially in America, we don't really see wheat at its form. Like, you don't go to the grocery store and see how wheat actually looks like, or how a wheat seed actually looks like. But that's what you're doing, that's called the endosperm. And seeds are very powerful. They have a lot of nutrients inside. So what we're doing it with wheat, that wheat gluten, what we're doing is we're taking all the white stuff, pause, right, inside that seed, and we're concentrating it all together into powder. And that's why when you pour water to it, like, you'll realize wheat gluten, GLUE, like the primary word of gluten, it has like a glue-like structure. So when you start making it's like sticky and glue, like a glue-like structure, but it's very concentrated. So, for for example, how concentrated it is, about a quarter cup, just a quarter cup of wheat gluten has about 20 to 25 grams of protein itself. Like that's so imagine 1 cup. If I use 1 cup of wheat gluten and I made seitan out of it, I can make like, let's say like chicken strips. If I made some chicken strips or like mock chicken strips, just add some seasoning, some water, cut it with some um usually people use like almond flour or some type of chickpea flour. I cut it with that with a cup of the wheat gluten. Like I could get about like 10 strips, and those 10 strips would be like over 100 grams, like 8 to 10 strips of like mock chicken strips, and that would be equivalent to about 100 grams of protein by itself. And that's why I'm going to make the recipe on or the meal prep video on showing you how to do that, so you can realize like how good wheat gluten is. It's like a really good gluten source. Only thing I recommend is like if you're allergic to gluten, don't consume it, obviously. Um, Now the next thing, let me go ahead and look down some more. I think some more people are asking questions. Let's see. All right, so some people are asking. I'm just going to ask some questions, and then I feel like we can go ahead and move to the exercise portion. But I think it's Adrian. He asked, "What's the minimum grams of protein? Excuse me, pound build muscle efficiently?" Like, so it's the same term that most people usually already know right now. It's going to be like a gram per 1 gram of protein per body weight. I mean, that's basically the best all around answer to give you. But and I want to say lean muscle. Well, is to be even a little bit more correct, I would say 1 gram of lean body mass. Okay, so because the thing is like if you're 300 pounds and you did like 1 gram of protein per body weight, like, and you're 300 pounds and you're like 50% body fat, there's no reason for you to be eating 300 grams of protein. All right. Like, that's just ridiculous. What you probably want to do is if it's, and I'm using 50% because this is the easiest way I can give you an example, is subtract that body fat to find out its lean muscle mass, right? So what's 50%? Divided by like 300, like it's going to be like 150 pounds. So a good place would be like for that individual would be like 150 grams of protein. But and this is just like a very basic example. Would I actually give this even if that guy was trying to build muscle and he had 50% body fat? This is where this question gets a little bit more difficult and gets deeper. And a lot of coaches don't really explain this very well. If you had 50% body fat and you want to build muscle, but the primary goal is to lose fat, like, does that individual needs 150 grams of protein? No, because the problem is that first, if this person has 300 grams, if this person is 300 pounds with 50% body fat, they're not that physically active to even be able to build that much muscle with the exercise regimen that they'll be on. And the primary goal will be weight loss anyways. So more likely they probably need less protein. And this is where you start saying like point point 0.8 grams, 0.5 grams, 0.6 grams, that protein level will go even lower than their lean body mass, because the primary goal, and especially their physical activity and exertion level, won't even be that high enough to utilize that protein. So that's why in these 1 minute reels, 60-second, 90-second reels, you'll hear a lot of coaches say like 1 gram of protein per body weight trying to build muscle, but they won't go that deep. And I feel most of it is only because they can't say everything in 60 and 90 seconds. They're just answering a basic question in a basic way. So you ask a basic question, you get a basic answer. But in these lives, I like to go a little bit deeper because that's how it's technically done. And most majority of people who don't want to, and I'm going to be very honest with you, majority of people who don't want to invest into coaches and they want to just get free advice, they expect to get like very deep, detailed answers, and it's not going to work because everyone's very different. So the answers will be depending on each individual, because building muscle for a marathon runner is going to be a lot different to a bodybuilder. That's going to be a lot different to a powerlifter. That's going to be a lot different to a CrossFitter. It's going to be a lot different to someone who just works a 9 to 5 job. It's going to be different from a woman to a man. Like it gets very complex. It's not as simple as most people think it is, but people they think nutrition should be. And it's like, no, everyone's different. It kind of boils down to that, you know? So, hopefully that answered the question, but like it really does go that deep. And especially if you want like the best results for what you're trying to achieve. The next one is, what are your thoughts on legumes as a protein source? Legumes is a great protein source, but it's not a source of protein that you should go to primarily. So that's why I said, like, I would try to get some of your protein through concentrated protein sources, as well as a mixture of a whole foods plant-based diet. But it really depends on your goals. You know what I'm saying? Depends on your goals. Like if you're just a person who just wants to be vegan, let's say you're just an average Joe vegan activist, and you don't work out that much. You just do a couple of exercises here and there. You're not really that consistent. And you already have like a nice healthy body, or maybe you don't care about your body. Then you can eat all the beans you want for your protein, right? But if you're trying to get ripped, you want to be lean, you're trying to build some real serious muscle, you have a particular goal where you're trying to aim at, you have a particular aesthetic that you're trying to achieve, then beans shouldn't be relied as your primary source. It has protein in it, but if you look at the macro ratio of how the bean is, there's more carbohydrates in that bean versus protein. So a cup of black beans is about 20 grams of protein, but when it comes to the carbohydrates, it's 40 grams of carbs. So this is why I said, like, if I'm a bodybuilder and my goal is to build muscle and I need to get more protein, a lot of protein in my diet, that's why I focus on a lot of concentrated protein foods, but I also incorporate a whole foods plant-based diet to get the remaining amount of protein that I need. So it's not heavily focused on concentrated minimally processed foods, but I do also have majority of the protein coming from different sources of real food. Okay, there's a balance. All right, and that's what. And if you use something called MyFitnessPal, you can really see how it's all scientifically built out, because I focus on micronutrients like vitamins, minerals, my fiber intake, where my sodium levels are, all that stuff, not just the macros itself and just purely on protein. Let's go down some more questions. What is the minimum grams of protein pounds for the minimum? Again, it's going to be based on each individual, but the minimum is like, I believe it's like 0.6, like 0.6 per gram per gram of protein towards your weight. I think that is it. How do we know our body fat? How we measure that? All right, that's a good question. So when it comes to the body fat, the best way to measure it is you have two types of measurements. You have a caliber, body fat caliber, but if you use one of these, you probably need someone to help you measure, like pinch your skin, do a skin fold technique, and you can measure it that way. Or you can use like electronic devices or x-rays and stuff. So you do have like DEXA scans, but the problem with DEXA scans is this: like you have to set up a home appointment and you have to go to a location, unless you have like, I think these machines cost around 30 to 50 grand. Unless you have 30 to 50 grand to spend to throw a big giant x-ray machine in your house, like I think that will be the only convenient way. But I don't think a lot of people want to. I mean, even if you had that money, I don't think a lot of people want to be wasting that much space just just to measure their weight and body fat, right? Um, but you have the Desca, which is considered one of the most accurate ways of doing it. But then at the same time, I would say just get a scale that does check your weight and body fat. So the scale that I use is this one right here. Is the InBody, all right, and this is the home edition. They do have like professional editions of those scales as well, but the professionals do run around 10 to I believe 10 to 20 grand. But again, you don't need a professional unless you have a professional business or something like that. I would see why you would spend that much money, or if you got it, yeah, go ahead and do it. But when it comes down to like a home edition, this scale only costs about 300. It's really accurate. It comes with it also comes with an app, so it tracks all your measurements every time you measure yourself, and so that's the best way to do it. And another tip is make sure once you purchase a scale, continue to use that scale. Don't do like, oh, 1 week I'm going to do InBody, another week I'm going to do Desca, another week I'm going to do a Skinfold, because the body fat percentage is going to be different on everyone. You know what I'm saying? You want to kind of be consistent, whichever device you're using. Okay. And again, even with the scale and the accuracies, if people are asking like what's more accurate and stuff, I want to be honest with you. At the end of the day, the accuracies aren't going to be like the biggest issue you should be worrying about. What you want to worry about is like just making sure that you can measure yourself and you can see where you are on the scale. So for example, with the InBody, it tells me that I'm 9%. When I'm cutting, it actually tracks down and goes down to the lowest body percent. Like when I was doing the show, it was reading between 5 to 3%. Do I know how accurate that is? I don't know. I don't care. I just know like how I look at it. I use it as a scale. And when I look at it, I'm like, I know when I'm competition ready is when this scale is reading between 3 to 5. Like that's how I sum it up. I'm not going to Desca, see how accurate it is and stuff like that. Like, and I always tell people this, like when I'm doing a bodybuilding show, the judges don't give two shits about your body fat percentage anyway. They're judging on how you look. You know what I'm saying? It's an aesthetic sport. So it doesn't really matter where your body fat is. No. Like, so and the same thing with weight loss. It's like, does it really matter how accurate that is? What's more important, your health when you get your blood work done, or just the body fat percentage itself, so you can know the aesthetics and just brag about it. You know what I mean? Like so that's just something I always say. Just get a scale that's pretty accurate, and something that's going to really measure your journey, and you can see if you're losing and actually gaining. Could you talk about how to keep proteins high enough to build muscle while traveling? I mean, when it comes to travel and keeping your protein high, it's pretty simple. What I tell my students is mostly prepare. They have to prepare. So they can either bring their own meal preps with them, like you can get like a lunch box, like I have here, which I've used. These meal prep lunch boxes. I use these, prep my meals, and carry it with me while traveling. And then also I'll bring like high protein foods with me. For example, I wouldn't bring tofu with me, but I would bring like seitan. I would bring like the Upton's seitan crumbles, just because it's vacuum sealed shut, and they don't mean it says they have to be refrigerated, but I won't be honest, they don't have to be that refrigerated, especially if you're going on a plane or something. They'll be good in your backpack or your travel bag for a good 24 hours, maybe even a little bit longer than that. You know what I mean? To be very honest with you, because it has the sodium in there. So, and I'm not coming. I'm coming from like a military background. MREs are vacuum sealed, has high sodium, and it's vacuum sealed shut. Very similar to like the seitan packets that you'll see. And again, the sodium is a natural preservative, and when it's kind of pre-cooked and it's vacuum shut, it's going to stay pretty good. It's not going to get bad. What would get bad would more likely be the tofu because it's not that vacuum shut and it has water in it, and so like the changing of the temperature, I can see that going bad a little bit faster versus seitan. So I would say bring some high protein meals with you, maybe some seitan, maybe some protein powders. What I usually do is I put them in Ziploc bags, put a bunch of protein powder for how many days I'm actually traveling for. And then once I get to my location, then I meal prep around the protein items I've had. So if I have a bunch of protein powder, maybe I want to make a smoothie. Maybe I just want like a protein shake with like fruit and cereal and granola at home or wherever I'm at. Or maybe I can use the protein powder and pour it into like that Kite Hill Greek style yogurt, blend that together. Now I have a very high protein yogurt bowl. You know what I'm saying? I could do things like that. And then with the seitan, again, I can buy some vegetables. I can buy microwave rice and just build my meal right in my hotel room, which I've done multiple times. So that's ways you can do it while traveling. But if you use something called MyFitnessPal, you can use that as well. And if you're tracking your foods and you know how to actually use that, you can learn how to also incorporate foods that you eat out at. So you could do that as well. So that's the way you can get a lot of high protein while traveling. Let me see something else to do. Let me see, just reading more. Yeah, they have meal prep lunch boxes. The one I have is from Six Pack. All right, that's the one I have. And let me just see with YouTube, because YouTube is asking me some questions as well. All right, so someone asked, maybe I missed it. Some people say gluten is bad for you. Basically, everyone, what do you think? Should you limit gluten? Um, with the whole gluten thing, like I said before, unless because I've seen people say this as well, but the whole thing about the gluten is that this is just propaganda. That's all it is. It's like people are reading old propaganda, and this is just I even know vegans that talks about this as well, and these are like those type of vegans are like herbalists, so they're very extreme, you know. So they're coming from a very extreme point of view. They're using very old and propaganda studies. But the reality is this is that gluten is good for you. There's actually a lot of good benefits by consuming gluten. It's really good for gut health. It's good for building muscle. It has a lot of amino acids in it as well. Help with cognitive capabilities. There's so many benefits of gluten. The only thing about gluten that you should stay away from is if you're allergic to it. If you have some type of sensitivity or you're allergic, that's the only time it's technically bad. But overall, it's good. And gluten came, and the whole gluten propaganda really came from like I said, it's just for like weight loss and things like that, because there was a point in time, especially in the 90s, which most people I guess have amnesia and just totally forgot about it, when like there was just this frenzy. They were just trashing gluten, and it got so bad, the gluten free frenzy. They were putting it on meat. They were saying this chicken is gluten free. Like, that's how bad it got. And they were even putting on animal byproducts saying like this is gluten free, this meat is gluten free, and it's like, no shit, it's gluten free, it's meat. Like, but that's how crazy the frenzy got, like the health frenzies got with this gluten stuff. So it's just propaganda. You'd be fine. Someone asks, what is a good vegan post workout protein? The one I'm using right now is going to be from Live Body, the Live Vegan Protein powder. So you could definitely get this. I really like it. just because it's really good for cooking. Like I like it just how it is by itself is, and it's very concentrated. Each scoop has about 23 to 25 grams of protein. It's all made with natural ingredients and stuff like that, with real food, as you can see. But but at the same time, I personally like it the most just for cooking. I can make a lot of pancakes and bake and a lot of bakery goods with it, and make it like very high protein and just goes well with it. But check it out. You go to livebody.com. You can also use my code KSBody and you'll get like 20% off as well. Okay, so but that's what I'm particularly using at this moment. And then I also use Sun Warrior. So I do use that one as well. So those are the type of, like, if we're talking about supplements and post workout stuff, that's what I do for protein. But if you're talking about food, it's usually my broken broken burger bowl that I use, like the seitan and stuff. I have recipes on my YouTube channel as well, on my Facebook, my Instagram and Facebook channels, and tofu scramble. And it's either the soy-free tofu scramble or just the regular soy tofu scramble. I usually mix between the two. Let's see. All right, so that's where to get good quality seitan. The best quality is the one that you make at home. So I guess the best version you can find is going to be from Bob's Red Mills. That's the one I usually buy. So that's a great one. And I know there's this other one that, man, I forgot who makes it, but there's another brand that makes some good quality seitan, like, well, wheat gluten. But then if you want something that's already pre-made, I always promote it the most. It's going to be the Uptons. Okay, it's like a guy with a mustache. So if you get that, they have a different ones. They have like traditional seitan to the crumbles to bacon. That's going to be like the best quality ones when it comes to seitan. I feel the other ones that's out there these days, they kind of, I don't see them anymore in the market. So Upton's is pretty cheap as well. All right, so that's where you get some. And then let's go ahead and move down into like the workouts. All right, because I know with the workouts, that's something more people want to know more about the food. No, the discount I could write here. So it's KS Body. That's the this KS Body. That's the discount code. So like Kilo Sierra Body, KS Body, like Live Body, but you're putting like KS for Corinne Sutton, KS Body, to get 20% off at livebody.com. More people wants to know about supplements. So I guess I'm not going to get into the workouts because more people are interested in the supplement stuff. Could you talk about your supplement stack that you use to build muscle, like creatine, multivitamins? Yeah. So I guess I'll end it here with the um with the supplement stack. So you already saw the Live Body vegan protein. Now, even me bulking, I want to be very transparent with you guys. Even me bulking, I don't do protein powder every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it all depends what I make. Like today, I used the protein powder because I made the broken bowl with the Upton seitan and bell peppers, onions, all that good jazz. But then I also made some high protein banana pancakes. So I did use one scoop of this, threw it into my pancake batter, and made it. But to be honest with you, not all the time I do a bunch of shakes and stuff, especially on this bulk, because I can have more calories. I can get my protein from different sources. So I can get because I have my calories is very close to 3,000. It's like 29 something, right? So let's round it up. So I'm getting about 3,000 calories per day, right? If we just round it up. So because the calories are so high and my macros is like 185 grams of protein, I think it's like 400 grams of carbs and 70 grams of fat, somewhere around there, right? I can get more protein. I can hit that protein goal through more rice, beans, sweet potatoes because I have a lot of calories and the majority of the calories is coming from a carb source, you know. But that's for me, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I can get that much protein from majority, like even better from a whole food source, and I can eliminate certain foods like protein powder or not depend on it every single day, if that makes sense. But when it comes down to the stat, again, it's basically, especially for supplements for building muscle, it's going to be creatine. All right, so the creatine monohydrate. So the one that I use is one from Sun Warrior. Okay, so you can get that one. I think it's called Active Creatine. I use BCAAs. I use this one right here from Clean Machine. So I get the clean BCAAs. I usually do about 2 scoops per day. Now, the BCAAs are really good because it has the primary amino acids that actually help build muscle, which is leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And you have to remember, it's not really protein that helps you build muscle. It's the amino acids that actually helps you build muscle because protein has to break down into amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. You know what I'm saying? So it's once protein breaks down into aminos, that's what helps you really build more muscle. So if you get more amino acids into your body, and it kind of even boils down to what I was saying before, like, you know, get some of that concentrated protein, but also try and make sure you're eating more whole foods that versus junk food. Your junk food should be very minimal, even in a bulking diet. Try get more real food because you can get more aminos, you can get more nutrients. You see what I'm saying? So everything kind of adds up when it comes to building mass. But I do use this, the Clean BCAAs, and this by Clean Machine. And you can use my discount code. I think it's what is it? KSTCM. All right. So Kilo Sierra KST Tango Charlie M as Michael. So KSTCM, like Corinne Sutton Teen Queen Machine. So those initials for I don't know what the percentage is. I think it's like 15 to 25% off, somewhere around there. But you could get a discount on all Clean Machine items on cleanmachineonline.com, and you get a discount from that. But I do use the protein powder, Live Body Protein, the creatine from Sun Warrior, the BCAAs from Clean Machine, vitamin D3 from Clean Machine. Vitamin D helps build muscle because it helps stimulate testosterone. You know what I'm saying? So I do take this as well. And I take about, you know, you don't have to take as much as I do. I am a darker individual, so I do need a little bit more vitamin D in my life. And I work in the office, and because the weather in Florida has been all very shaky and it's just been cloudy almost all the time. Uh, I've been doing about 8,000 IUs, but the average person only needs up to 2,000 IUs. Okay, this has 4,000 IUs, so you probably just need one. I take two because, you know, again, I'm trying to get bigger, you know. And then also I take the Cell Block 80 from Clean Machine, which is a natural testosterone booster. I don't have it here; it's in the kitchen, but I do take that, and then I do take Tribulus as well. So, and then lastly, I do take a pre-workout from Sun Warrior or from Clean Machine. So Clean Machine has one called, um, I think it's called Clean NO or Clean, Clean. What is it called? I think it's called like Clean Pre-Workout or Clean NO, something like that. I do take theirs, but what I've been leaning on mostly, honestly, is the one from Sun Warrior, which is Active Energy. And I kind of like that one just because they put like a lot of mushrooms in there, so you get a lot of like B vitamins in it to really help with like energy and feels a little bit more natural. And then you add like electrolytes and stuff to it as well. So that's what I've been kind of been taking mostly right now. But I think, and then glutamine, I take that as well, and that's it. That's the only thing I've been really taking because since the bulk, I kind of cut back on a lot of other supplements, just because like I'm not in deficit, I'm more on surplus, so I'm relying more mostly on the foods and not so heavily into the supplements. But hopefully that is it when it comes down. I guess I can answer one more question or two more because I see more people asking more questions. Um, let's see. What do you recommend to help with excess skin for starting to lose weight and gaining muscle? That's a good one. When it comes to excess skin, especially if you're on a weight loss journey, one of the things you have to remember is that the excess skin really depends on where you're at. So, for example, if you're like like I had an individual, her name's Erin Kate. She started at 300 pounds, so she does have some excess skin, but not as much as most people would think. Because first she's tall, so that helps. You know, she's like 6 foot tall, so that really helps the most because she's naturally a tall, big person. So that helps. But then also we're building muscle, so you know when you get like morbidly obese or you get to that obesity area where you're holding a lot of body fat, the skin can get stretched out. But to help with that stretch elasticity and try to see if it can come back, you have to just focus mostly on the weight loss first to improve your health. And then once you get to your goal, you have to spend time building more muscle. And especially if you want to do it naturally. And this all takes time, and you have to have patience, and you have to be very consistent with it, because building muscle is difficult and it does take a lot of time. But to return its elasticity to the skin, depending on how damaged the skin got from being overweight, then you have to build muscle, because muscle is muscle, fat is fat. They're two different things. So that's the only thing I can really tell you. If you want to do it in a natural way, I mean, obviously there's always surgery. You know what I'm saying? That would be the quickest route. But again, if you're doing it the natural way would be building muscle. You know, you have to put on the muscle, because the more muscle you have, it's going to replace the spots where, because the skin is just, it's on, it's your whole body. You know what I'm saying? So like, even if you have loose skin in the stomach, if you start building up the chest, start building up the back, making that bigger, you start building muscle and skin, things is going to start tightening up. It's all connected. At the end of the day, everything's connected. So like that's how it kind of works. You just have to keep going at it, keep building muscle, and that skin will tighten up eventually. But it will take time, and it really depends how heavy the individual is and how damaged the elasticity of the skin gotten being overweight. So it's relative. And let me see. Just trying to find it. All right. So someone asked, "Is it okay for women to eat tofu?" Yes, it's definitely okay for women to eat tofu. There is recent studies that does show that you could women can eat women and men, can eat soy on a diet. And I can actually look up that study right now, versus just saying it, right? So according to Harvard University, yeah, so Harvard University study actually states that when it comes down to tofu, like soy, well, not just tofu, but soy products, it has soy foods are rich in nutrients, including vitamin D, fiber, potassium, magnesium. It's also a high quality protein. Unlike some plant proteins, soy protein is considered a complete protein source, which means that it contains all 9 essential amino acids that the body cannot make, which must be obtained from a diet. Soy food is also classified as a fermented, unfermented product. And then if we go down some more, it says studies, and this is still coming from the same study. Studies looking at large numbers of people have found that eating a diet high in soy protein may actually lower the risk developing hormone related cancers such as breast, prostate, and urinary cancer. All right, so that's the study. So hopefully that helped you out. And what I always say is this, when it comes to protein, it's well, when it comes to soy products, is that if it had negative effects, because most people say like, oh, it ruins your hormones and it makes you grow gyno, which is like man breasts and stuff like that. I always say this, like I've been vegan for 11 years. I still been waiting for these breasts to grow, haven't grown yet. That's number one. And number two is that if it was giving people gyno and putting more like fat in the breast area, especially if it was affecting men that badly, why would I mean breast augmentation would be out of business? Women would just go to the store, buy a $3 packet of protein and just consume that so they can actually get more fat cells put into their breasts. Yeah, because that's what gyno is fat tissue being accumulated in the breast area. But for men, it's gyno because like men shouldn't have fat there. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? So hopefully that answers everything. And then someone asked me, have you experimented with low protein intake to build muscle? Yeah, when I first heard about that thing, I kind of tested the waters, and to be honest with you, I did it for 2 weeks. I just felt like crap. Everything was sore, and I just didn't understand where the logic was coming from. But then I actually it was actually in How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. He mentions because I have all his books. That's when he mentioned it. So I tried it, but then I felt like crap. Everything was sore. And then in How Not to Diet, he reiterated that statement and said like, well, if you're like a bodybuilder or an athlete, they more likely they probably need a lot more. And he just kind of states like, I'm just saying from a medical practice point of view, which makes sense, which is totally understandable. You know what I mean? But with that said, hopefully this was helpful. I'm going to go ahead and end the live now. Hopefully I answered a lot of people's questions. But like I say, I always do these classes at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Times every Wednesday. So chime in for next time when I do these, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.